This is Ben Johnson, and he used to be the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions until about a month ago when the Chicago Bears paid him $65 million to become their head coach because he was probably the most sought after coach in this year's hiring cycle. But why was that? Why were so many teams trying to get Ben Johnson in their facility? Well, in this video, we're going to take a look at the film and talk about it. What impresses me the most about Ben Johnson is his willingness to think outside of the box and take risks to get his playmakers the ball in space. And when he gets them there, he lets them know that he expects them to get in the end zone. And lucky for him, last year with the Lions, he had a lot of playmakers. Here's another hook and ladder. Instead of coming out of the slot this time, it's to Jahmyr Gibbs running out of the backfield. And although he's probably called more trick plays in a single season than most offensive coordinators do in a lifetime, that's not the only thing he does well. He's not a one-trick pony in that regard. He also can do the quote-unquote boring stuff like pass protection in very creative and effective ways. If you've seen my video on the Vikings defense, you know that they like to do this blitz against 4 wide receiver sets where they line up 7 men on the line of scrimmage and blitz all of them because they know that the offense only has 6 possible blockers and that they're going to have 1 free runner. This allows them to play a special coverage on the back end called eyes, where the defensive backs are all keying off the vision of the quarterback because they know that this ball has to come out hot, meaning going to his first read, and he's going to be under pressure. This allows the defensive backs to get a good jump on where he's going with the ball and possibly get an interception or at the very least a pass breakup. But this is all predicated on getting a free runner. The Lions aren't going to let that happen. They're going to motion this receiver into the middle of the formation and use him as a blocker on the outside edge. This allows the Lions' offensive line to slide to the left, which lets Penei Sewell, their all-pro offensive tackle, collapse the right side of the line. By doing this, the left tackle can now set wide and show the outside rusher, Harrison Smith, that he's ready for him. Seeing that he doesn't have a free lane to the quarterback anymore, Harrison Smith drops back in coverage to try and help out the other defensive backs. This lets the tackle come back inside and collapse the defensive line even further. And this mosh pit of linemen gives Jared Goff just enough time to look off the coverage at the bottom of the screen and then come back to a wide open Amon-Ra St. Brown streaking down the middle of the field. But that's not the only way that he can beat this blitz schematically, because instead of motioning a receiver in to block this time, he's going to motion a tight end out to influence the coverage. Because this time, he's not going to play the numbers game with the protection. He's going to play it with his receivers. And what I mean by that is the Vikings have these 4 defensive backs playing the eyes coverage, and they have 1 linebacker doing what we call a hug rush or a green dog rush. And that means that he's a rusher unless the running back releases out of the backfield, and then he has to cover him. But that usually doesn't happen because most offenses, when they see a max blitz, always keep the running back in for extra protection. But Johnson knows that he's going to get an advantageous matchup with a linebacker that's 1, expecting to rush, and 2, has bad leverage against any sort of inside breaking route. So he's going to use this tight end to influence this safety outside of the hash, and then he's going to send Jahmyr Gibbs on a rail route right up the seam inside of the linebacker to a wide open middle of the field. And although this is a great play against this blitz, I don't want to undersell the fact that this is great execution by Jared Goff because he still has to stand in the pocket with all of these defenders running at him and make an accurate throw. Because at the end of the day, the scheme can be as good as you want. If the players can't make the plays, it doesn't matter. Now I want to take a look at some pass concepts that I really liked when I was looking through the film. And I just want to preface this by saying none of these concepts are revolutionary. All offensive coordinators know them. Most of them use all of these concepts. But what I think makes Ben Johnson so good is his ability to always, or at least most of the time, use the right concept at the right time against the right team. And there's no better example of that than this play right here, where he has Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs purposely stumble to make the Bears defense freeze, and then he leaks out Sam Laporta to the backside for a wide open touchdown. And my first thought was, how do you even come up with a play like that? And then Johnson said after the game that he had seen this play from the Packers versus the Bears in 2023, where the Packers were running tight end leak and Love fumbled the ball by accident in the backfield, and this caused the Bears defense to come up and left the tight end wide open down the field. He even said after the game, he asked Jared Goff if he could fumble the ball on purpose to sell the fake. If that doesn't tell you all you need to know about Ben Johnson, I don't know what does. But like I said, this guy is willing to take risks to make big plays happen. But the risks are calculated because he knows the kinds of looks he's going to get for certain teams, and he makes plays that are going to beat that team in those looks. And I think this play is a perfect example of that. And let me tell you why. Here the Lions are lined up in a 3-by-1 set with a condensed single receiver. And that means that the single receiver, in this case the tight end, is going to be aligned close to the offensive tackle. And usually when offenses do this, it means that something else is coming outside. And in this case, it's going to be a wheel route from Jahmyr Gibbs. But the Vikings know that. So when that tight end releases inside, that corner is not going to follow him. He's going to keep sticking back, and he's going to cover that wheel from Jahmyr Gibbs from depth. And as soon as Jared Goff sees that this wheel route's covered, he immediately comes back to the drag at the top of the screen. And thanks to a little help from the turf monster, this guy's wide open. But what I really love about this play and this design is that even when the wheel is covered and you have to throw the ball to the drag, now Jahmyr Gibbs is in perfect position to be a lead blocker for this guy and spring the touchdown. For this last pass play that we're going to talk about, it's going to be less about the concept itself, which I, by the way, really like, and more about the differences in discipline that you can see between the two teams. Here we see that the Lions get to the ball and get set very quickly as the Cowboys are still walking to their assignments. The Lions take advantage of this by snapping the ball quickly while their defensive backs aren't even properly aligned, and this allows Jameson Williams just to run past Trayvon Diggs for an easy touchdown. And to me, that's a sign of a well-coached team, a team that hustles to the line, is on the same page, and is able to take advantage of mistakes by the other team. Now we're going to get to my favorite part of offensive football, and that's the run game. And just as a preface, I'm a defensive guy by nature, so if I misname a certain kind of block and you're an offensive guy, feel free to correct me in the comments. I'm always ready to learn new stuff. This is going to be an inside zone from the Lions where the 3 interior linemen are going to take care of these 3 defenders, and then the front side tackle and the extra linemen are going to get a double team on the defensive end up to the overhang. But there's a little wrinkle on the backside that I really like, because instead of having that backside tackle climb up to the linebacker and having the tight end cut off the D end, they're going to switch responsibilities. And as we let it play, we're going to see how this front side flow from the offensive line is going to influence this linebacker to fill hard into the inside edge of the B gap, setting up the insert block from Sam Laporta perfectly, creating a huge cutback hole for Jahmyr Gibbs to hit for a big gain. In this next play, we're going to see the exact same inside zone concept, but this time instead of using a tight end, they're going to use the wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown to insert and block the linebacker. And this gets back to the importance of knowing your personnel and knowing what they can and can't do. If this was any other wide receiver except for Amon-Ra St. Brown, I would say that using him to block a linebacker on an inside zone play would be a terrible idea. But Amon-Ra blocks like a tight end. He's a tough, hard-nosed dude. And Ben Johnson knows that, and he uses his scheme to exploit that strength. And for this last play, we have a 4th down and 1, gotta have it situation for the Lions. And I love this play design. They're in this really interesting formation. I don't really know what to call it, some sort of offset eye wishbone type deal. But if you notice, Jahmyr Gibbs is lined up in that offset position, and they have Amon-Ra St. Brown in that traditional running back spot. And they run a pin and pull where this tight end kicks out, the wide receiver cracks a linebacker, and then they have a guard pull around for whoever's left. And as we let this run, we see that it works like a charm. This wide receiver cracks back on an unsuspecting linebacker, the tight end gets a good kick out block, and the guard comes screaming through this open hole, and that cornerback wants absolutely no part of that and just gets out of the way. That'll do it for my analysis on Ben Johnson. I think he's a really great coach, a really great play caller, but as I said in this video, it's the players that make the plays, and he's not going to have these same players that he had in Detroit with the Bears. But who knows? Maybe he gets some guys in that he likes. Maybe he develops Caleb Williams and he turns them into a formidable team too. But only time will tell, and I can't wait to watch him next season. That's it from me. If you're enjoying the videos, press subscribe. And if there's a player you want to see, a scheme you want to see, or a certain team or coach, I'll be happy to take a look. Just leave a comment down below. See you next time.